Today's lesson is Under the Weather. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're talking about going to see the doctor if you're not feeling well, if you're feeling under the weather. And of course, if you're under the weather, that means you're not feeling well. You might have a cold, you might be sick. So, of course, it would be a good time to go check out a physician.
That's right. That's exactly what under the weather means. It just means you're not feeling well. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a disease. You might just be feeling tired one day because the day before you had exercised too much or you're just really tired, so you're feeling under the weather.
Exactly. You don't feel so good. You might take a day off from school or work. But in today's lesson, we've got Denny actually going to a clinic near his house. He wants to see a doctor to see if there's something wrong with him. So let's get to it, everybody. Again, the title of our lesson is Under the Weather. Part 1 is a new patient visit. Let's listen to the conversation between the receptionist and Denny.
Under the weather. A new patient visit. Denny walks up to the reception desk at a clinic near his house.
Hi, how may I help you today?
I'd like to make an appointment with the ENT doctor.
Certainly. And do you have your medical card?
Yep, here you are. The receptionist inserts the card into the reader and checks the computer.
Since this is your first visit to our clinic, I'll give you a registration form to fill out. Here you are.
Thanks. Will there be a long wait?
No, it shouldn't be too long. Here is your number. Please take a seat and wait until it's called.
Thank you very much.
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 appointment， 表示预约、约定或是约会。像是 If you don't have an appointment, you can't see the doctor today. 如果你没有预约，今天就不能看到医生。或是 Tony has an appointment to get his hair cut this Saturday. Tony 这星期六约好要剪头发。另外补充这个字的常见用法 make an appointment。Make, M-A-K-E, make an appointment. 意思是预约。例如 I made an appointment for 3 o'clock tomorrow. 我预约明天3点钟。或者 Gail made an appointment at the dentist's office to get her teeth checked. Gail 在牙医诊所预约做牙齿检查。再来我们看到形容词 attached, 指附上、附加的或是附属的。像是Please fill in the attached form. 请填好附属的表格。也可以说 Please open the attached file for more details on the project. 请开启附加的档案，以了解关于那项计划的更多细节。另外，将 attached 字尾的 ed 去掉，就变成了动词 attach, 指使连接、固定或是附上。例如 Once the wires are attached,It will complete the circuit. 这些线一接起来，就可以完成回路了。或者 He attached the note to the page with a paperclip. 他用回纹针把那张便条纸固定在页面上。
So part 1 of today's dialogue is titled A New Patient Visit. So this patient, Denny, we presume, is a patient who is visiting this clinic for the first time. So Denny walks up to the reception desk at a clinic near his house. So a reception desk is a desk that is located at the front of the clinic, at the front of an office. Reception here refers refers to the place where visitors are met. It's usually the part of a large space like a hotel or an office where there is someone whose job is to receive and welcome visitors. So you have a reception desk. Often at hotels, when you check in at the reception desk. And here, Denny goes to the reception desk to make an appointment to see the doctor.
And the receptionist greets Denny, and she says, "Hi, how may I help you today?" That is a polite greeting by the receptionist. She could also say, "What can I do for you today?"
Yes, and Denny replies, "I'd like to make an appointment with the ENT doctor." Now, an appointment is an arrangement to see someone, usually someone like a doctor or someone who provides a professional service like a lawyer or your accountant, to go and see and talk to that person to have their service. So Denny wants to see a doctor, but he can't just walk into the doctor's office, so he needs to make an appointment. And he wants to make an appointment with the ENT doctor. And here, ENT stands for ear, nose, and throat.
Right, so that is a doctor who specializes in problems related to your ears, to your nose, and to your throat. And the receptionist says, "Certainly. And do you have your medical card?" So at least here in Taiwan and perhaps in other countries, when you go to see the doctor, you need to present your medical card, which has a chip on it, and they'll be able to read the card, and it will have your information and maybe your medical history and stuff like that. And Denny says, "Yep, I do have my medical card. Here you are." And Denny hands the card to the receptionist, who inserts the card into the reader and checks the computer. Of course, as you know, when you give them your card, they will insert the card into a special kind of reader. So if you insert something into something, that means you put that thing inside of that thing. Of course, you need to insert your card in various places in order to have a transaction. Of course, sometimes you can have your card scanned, but in this case, of course, they insert the card into a reader, and the reader is a special device that reads the chip or the magnetic strip on the card to get the information from the card.
Right. So again, the word insert just means to put something in something else. You can also insert your bills, your money, and all your credit cards in your wallet. You can also insert a key into a keyhole to open a door. These are all ways of using the word insert.
Exactly. Okay, so the receptionist says, since this is your first visit to our clinic, I'll give you a registration form to fill out. So the receptionist, of course, has looked at the information that has come from the card, and she can tell that this is Denny's first visit to their clinic. He doesn't have any record of having gone there before, so she knows it is his first visit to that clinic, and therefore he needs to fill out a registration form so that they can accept you and you can use their services. You need to fill out a registration form when you go to see the doctor, or when you want to apply for a library card, or perhaps when you want to get a job or attend a university. You need to fill out a registration form, or sometimes that could be called an application form. But in this particular case, since it's a clinic, it's going to be a registration form because he needs to register.
That's right. And speaking of college or schools, when you go to college, you have to choose your courses. So you register for those courses, and usually there's a period when you can register, and that is the registration period.
Right. So he needs to fill out the form. Of course, it's a piece of paper, and he needs to write down information, his name, his ID number, his address, maybe his medical history or things like that. And so in order for him to fill out the registration form, she passes him a clipboard with a form attached. So, of course, a clipboard, of course, is a hard board. Sometimes it's made of plastic, sometimes it's made of some kind of particle board, and it's got a clip at the top. In this particular case, there is a form attached to that clipboard, and she says, "Here you are, you may fill out the form."
Yes, and Danny says thanks. and he fills in the form and hands it back. So he writes down all the information that is required and he gives the clipboard with the form attached back to the receptionist. And he asks the receptionist, will there be a long wait? In other words, will I have to wait long to see the doctor?
Sometimes you do have to wait a long time to see the doctor. Of course, here in Taiwan, I've been very impressed. You never have to wait that long to see the doctor, at least compared to the USA. My goodness, you can be in there for several days before you see a doctor. Of course, I'm exaggerating, but still, he's asking if there's going to be a long wait. Maybe he has other things to do. And the receptionist says, no, it shouldn't be too long. The line won't be too long. The wait will not be too long. You'll probably be in to see the doctor rather shortly. And she enters his information into the computer and prints out a number slip. Okay, so she's entered the information into their system, into their computer, and then a number is printed out. It's a number slip that she's going to hand to him, and she says, here's your number, please take a seat and wait until it's called. So yes, oftentimes when you want to see somebody, you need to take a number. This happens in banks and in the post office. You take a card, it has a number on it, and then your number is called, and then it's your turn.
That's right. So Denny has his number. So all he has to do now is wait for his number to be called so that he can see the doctor. And he says to the receptionist, thank you very much.
Okay, so very soon he will be in to see the doctor to find out what's wrong with him. Okay, let's move on now to part 2. We're going to have an assessment and diagnosis.
An assessment and diagnosis. Denny's number is called and he enters the doctor's office. Take a seat. What seems to be the problem?
My throat is quite sore and scratchy, and it hurts when I swallow. I don't have a cough or a runny nose or anything like that, though, so I'm pretty sure it's not a cold or the flu.
I see. And how long have you had these symptoms?
They came on pretty quickly. I was feeling fine yesterday.
Okay, I'm just going to perform a quick examination. Do you feel any sensitivity?
Yes, that's a little sore.
Now open wide, please. Yes, it looks like a mild case of strep throat.
Is it anything to worry about?
Not at all. It's a relatively common bacterial infection, and we'll be able to clear it up with a short course of antibiotics. I'll take a throat swab to confirm the diagnosis and then write you a prescription.
Thank you so much.
第二部分我们看到名词 diagnosis， 意思是诊断。我们可以说 The doctor's diagnosis was that Sue had the flu. 医生诊断 Sue 得了流感。或是 Patrick is waiting for a diagnosis from his doctor to find out why he feels sick. Patrick 正在等医生诊断出他不舒服的原因。另外补充这个字的动词 diagnose， D-I-A-G-N-O-S-E diagnose 指诊断。例如 A CT scan helps doctors to diagnose cancer in patients. 电脑断层扫描有助医生诊断出病人的癌症。也可以说 The doctor diagnosed Kevin with a severe respiratory infection. 医生诊断 Kevin 得了严重呼吸道感染。最后我们看到单字 sensitivity， 这个字是名词，指敏感性或是灵敏度。举例来说 I have a high sensitivity to loud noises that can easily give me headaches. 我对大声的噪音很敏感，它们很容易使我头痛。或是 Patients may experience temporary sensitivity to lights following the eye surgery. 患者在做完眼睛手术后，可能暂时会对光线敏感。另外补充这个字的形容词 sensitive， S-E-N-S-I-T-I-V-E sensitive， 意思是敏锐的或是敏感的。像是 A dog's sense of hearing is about 4 times more sensitive than a human's. 狗的听觉大约比人类灵敏4倍。也可以说 I have a sensitive stomach, so I don't eat spicy foods. 我肠胃敏感，所以我不吃辣的食物。
So part 2 is called an assessment and diagnosis. So assessment means the process of forming an opinion or making a judgment about something after you have considered that thing very carefully. So an assessment is what a doctor makes regarding a patient, but only after the doctor has examined the patient and run tests on the patient. And diagnosis is a statement about what kind of disease a person has, again, based on the examination that has been done to that person.
Exactly. So the doctor is going to look at his symptoms and make an assessment, and then the doctor is going to have a diagnosis, and the doctor, of course, is going to conclude what's wrong with him, and the doctor will prescribe medicine for Denny. So Denny's number is called, and he enters the doctor's office. Good morning, doctor. Good morning, Mr. So-and-so. What can I do for you? What seems to be the problem? Well, the doctor says, take a seat. What seems to be the problem? What's the matter with you?
And Denny says, my throat is quite sore and scratchy, and it hurts when I swallow. I don't have a cough or a runny nose or anything like that, though. So I'm pretty sure it's not a cold or the flu. So Denny describes his symptoms to the doctor, and he says that mainly it's his throat that's bothering him because it feels sore and scratchy. Scratchy means itchy. Maybe it's the feeling of wanting to cough because you have an itchy throat. And then when he swallows, his throat hurts. So he is telling these symptoms to the doctor.
Right. So, of course, sometimes if your throat is sore and scratchy, you might have a cold, but you need to have symptoms for a cold, like a cough or a runny nose, stuff like that. And he doesn't have any of those symptoms, so he does not think it's a cold or the flu. He says, I'm pretty sure it's not a cold or the flu, but still, my throat is quite sore and scratchy, and it hurts when he swallows. And the doctor says, well, I see, I understand. And how long have you had these symptoms? So again, we have indications of an illness in the form of symptoms. Like if you do have a cold, you might be coughing, you might have a sore throat, you might have a runny nose. Those are symptoms of a cold or perhaps the flu. And so these are symptoms, indications of the disease, and the doctor needs to know how long he has had these symptoms.
And Denny replies, they came on pretty quickly. I was feeling fine yesterday. So here the phrase came on means to begin, to start. And Denny is saying that these symptoms, the sore throat and the scratchiness, began very quickly, suddenly. Yesterday, he was feeling fine, and then all of a sudden today, perhaps this morning, he started having these symptoms.
Okay, so the doctor's got this information, and the doctor says, okay, I'm just going to perform a quick examination. So that's what doctors usually do. They ask you some questions to try to figure out maybe what's wrong with you, and then the doctor maybe makes an assessment, and then they go ahead and examine the patient more in detail. So here's what the doctor does. The doctor feels Denny's neck and then has another question for Denny. Do you feel any sensitivity? And if you have sensitivity, or if something is sensitive, that means it hurts a little extra when something is pressed against it. You might have sensitive teeth, or there might be some sensitivity in your teeth, so you need to use a special kind of toothpaste. If you use regular toothpaste and you start brushing your teeth, oh, that hurts! My teeth hurt when I use that toothpaste because my teeth are sensitive, or I have sensitivity to that kind of toothpaste. And in this case, the doctor knows if he has any sensitivity in his neck. Does it feel really bad when I press your neck like this?
And Danny says, yes, that's a little sore. So indeed, he does feel a little bit of soreness when the doctor presses on his neck. And the doctor replies, now open wide, please. So he is asking Denny to open his mouth so that he could look at his throat.
And yes, the doctor says, yes, indeed, it does look like a mild case of strep throat. So if you have a case of something, that means you have this problem, you have this disease. But in this particular case, it's not a severe case of strep throat. It's a mild case. We still need to do something about it, even though it's a mild case. And strep throat is kind of a bacterial infection in your throat. I've heard of people having this. I don't believe I've ever had this myself. And strep is short for streptococcus, in case you wanted to know. I never knew that myself when I was growing up. Everybody just said strep throat. That meant you had a special kind of sore throat.
Right. It's usually not very serious, but it can get serious. And if it gets serious, then it's something that one should worry about. But in this case, it's not serious. And Denny says, "Is it anything to worry about?" And the doctor says, "Not at all. It's a relatively common bacterial infection, and we'll be able to clear it up with a short course of antibiotics." So the doctor says that this is a bacterial infection. So an infection is a disease or some other kind of condition that's caused by a bacteria, but it could also be caused by a virus or some other kind of parasite that makes you sick. But in this case, it's caused by a bacteria. And when an infection is caused by a bacteria, it can be eliminated through a course of antibiotics. Antibiotics are medicine that you use when you have a bacterial infection.
Which is usually what they prescribe for a bacterial infection. And if you clear something up, you get rid of that problem. And of course, you need to take the antibiotics over a period of at least 3 days. And you can't miss a dosage. If you miss a dosage, then the whole treatment procedure will not work.
That's right. And the doctor says, "I'll take a throat swab to confirm the diagnosis and then write you a prescription." So the doctor thinks that it's strep throat, but he needs to be absolutely sure. So he's going to take a throat swab, which basically means he's going to take one of those little sticks with cotton on the tip, and he's going to gently press it or wipe it against Denny's throat to get a sample of Denny's body fluid, basically his saliva, so that that fluid can be tested under a microscope or through other means to make sure that Denny indeed has strep throat and not some other problem.
Yep, so the doctor's going to take a throat swab to confirm the diagnosis and then write him a prescription. That just means an order for medicine that he will get from the pharmacy of a hospital or of chemists or a drugstore. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson. After Denny says thank you very much. Thank you so much. Now let's listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分对话的最后，医生检查完 Danny 的喉咙，认为只是相当常见的细菌感染，他会用咽喉棉棒来确认诊断结果，然后写一份处方签给 Danny。 好，这边他有用到 infection 来指感染，还有用到 prescription 来指处方签。那我们来补充他们的字首字根。好，首先 infection 它是来自动词 infect。当我们看到 FECT、FACT 或是 FICT 这一类的字根时，它们表示 do 或者是 make， 就有那种做啊、制作、产生、促使的意思。好，在 infect 这个字当中，它的字首 in 表示在点点点之中，而字根 FECT 表示产生。如果在某个群体之中，在什么之中去产生的影响、产生的作用，也许就可以联想到 infect 它有感染、传染的意思，也可以去表达像情感感染的别人啊，使他人受影响的意思。好，那我们在 infect 后面加上名词字尾 ion， 得到 infection， 那这个名词就是表达感染或是传染病咯。好，顺便补充两个有相同字根的单字，第一个是 effect。EFFECT， 好，它的字首 EF 是来自 EX，EX 因为碰到 F 开头的字根被同化成 EF， 那这个字首是表达向外。再来字根 FECT 表示产生，把这两个部分组合在一起，那就表示向外产生，向外产生作用啊、影响，所以这个字就会有那种有效力啊、影响或是作用的意思。 而这个字也可以当动词去表达造成或是使某件事情发生实现。好，第二个补充的是 defect。defect 它的字首 de 表示 down 或者是 away， 那就有向下离开的语义，而字根 fect 表示制作。同学们可以试着联想，制作出来的东西却被往下丢弃啊丢开，那就表示那个东西是有缺陷有问题的，所以 defect 这个字当名词就有瑕疵缺陷的意思。接着我们来看 prescription， 它是来自动词 prescribe。当我们看到 scribe 或者是拼作 scribe 或者是 script 这一类字根表示 write 就是书写。那在 prescribe 这个字当中呢，它的字首 pre 表示在点点点之前，那么 scribe 的部分表示写。医生在开处方签的时候，就是事先写下指示，让你之后可以去药局领药嘛。那大家应该可以联想到 prescribe 它就有开，就是开处方开药的这个开的动作，而名词 prescription 则是表达处方药处方签。好，这边我们也来补充两个有相同字根的单字。第一个是 describe， 它的字首 de 表示 down 就是下，那么字根 scribe 表示 write 就是书写，所以从这个字首字根来看，它就有 write down 写下来的那种意思嘛。那么 describe 这个动词它就表示描述啊描写叙述的意思，它的名词是 description。 好，再来第二个补充的是 subscribe， 它的字首 sub 表示下方，那么 scribe 表示写。同学们可以试着联想，在文件下方写自己的名字签名来表示同意或者是要订购之类的行为，那么 subscribe 它就有订阅订购的意思，而它的名词则是 subscription。 好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Reception. If you need a locker key, ask for one at the reception desk. Appointment.You need to make an appointment to visit the dentist. Insert. Insert your coins into the machine and then select the drink you want to buy. Registration. Student registration will take place in the first week of the new semester. Attached. The job application form has a picture of the candidate attached. Symptom. The patient described his symptoms to the doctor. Infection.If you take this medicine, the infection should disappear within a few days.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.